Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. And let me welcome you to episode number one, two, three, four, and five of The First is the Worst, the only program dedicated to helping you perfect the opening pages of your unpublished baby. My name is J.E. Kierlock, and you can see behind me my handsome husband playing away at WoW. So if he distracts you, well, sucks to be you, sorry, not sorry. I'm currently querying my debut novel, a YA urban fantasy called Copper Breadcrumbs, in hopes of snagging an agent and landing a book deal. And just to prove I'm putting my money where my mouth is, I'm linking below the first chapter of Copper Breadcrumbs and the first chapter of my adult, very adult, LGBT thriller Ice and Glass. After all, if you can allow me to tear apart your opening chapter, I can allow you to do the same to mine. For the adult chapter, a trigger warning of drugs, sex, violence, and homophobia. So if you or anyone you know is interested in a free critique of your full, polished, and unpublished first chapter, maximum of 5,000 words, then submit to FirstistheWorstPodcast at gmail.com. I accept all genre fiction, except erotica and fan fiction, MG through adult. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell, and be notified of all future episodes. It will help me out greatly. You can also follow me on Twitter at JECEARLOCK, and also The First is the Worst at FRSTISTHEWRST, both in the description below. Now, today, I'd like to talk about world building. And world building is one of the hardest facets of writing because it has to be catered to your specific world and writing style. World building is everything from geography and politics to geopolitics, currency, religion, greetings, gestures, clothing, etc. It can take a long time to develop and is often one of the things new writers struggle with the most because there's so much more to it than they realize. Just look at how intricate and complicated our world and history are. Creating your own is a monumental task, and every angle of it must be considered. So today, I will be discussing with author Christian Clark the first chapter of his adult sci-fi novel, The Codex of the Cosmari, and ways to improve the world building, among other things. So sit back and relax, and let's take a peek into the world of the Codex of the Cosmari. Chapter 1. Her gaze wavered between the fogged-up sliding glass door from the inside of Jordan Blue's apartment and the darkened splatters of the rain. The light on the balcony flickered as a reminder that she had to pester the owners of the complex to fix it for the third time this month. Just before the thunder crashed, she heard a rustle and voices from outside. The rain's intensity increased for a moment before it retreated as if to gather its strength once more. It slowed down to a trickle, and the wind eased off the rotted trees in the marsh across from her apartment. Jordan put her worn, waterproof shawl and took the chance to observe the outside. Across Section 9 of Southeast by South Block, Jordan saw the few other residents in distant complexes scramble to finalize their rain catchers. Their water pipes had broken down again. Jordan furrowed her brow and looked back to the marsh, assured she had heard the voices there. The marsh reached out as far as she could see, weaved through the rivers created by the flash flood, and sat on a small cliff that overlooked the ocean. The sea was a colorless waste that reminded Jordan she would never experience the water without it attempting to drown her. The small beach between the ocean and the marsh was covered with garbage of all kinds. Discarded vehicles, decomposed foodstuffs, half-used supplies, and the occasional body of an enforcer. The locals could do nothing to stem the tide of garbage, while Jordan was used to the smell, but it sickened her in more ways than one. Out of habit, her hand grazed over the bump in her pocket to ensure the medication was still there. The rain and wind suddenly returned in force, and Jordan held the shawl tighter around her. The rain stung her eyes, and she held onto the side of the balcony to ground her footing. The flood underneath whipped at the foundations as large pebbles started to fall off due to erosion. As she leaned on the railing, the weather-worn concrete gave way and the balcony collapsed under her. She tried to scream, but the rain and thunder were louder as she tumbled off into the water. She attempted to call for help, but the noise of the flood drowned her out. Worse yet, she felt the itch in the back of her throat. Anything she attempted to grab hold on slipped through her hands. Her attempts to push her feet against the ground met with only smooth rocks and mud. The cliff drew close, and with one last desperate attempt, she called out for help. When she fell into the ocean, the various compounds and chemicals were so heavy she couldn't swim her way to the surface. She tried to push her way upward, but her clothes grew heavier. As her strength waned, she went limp and fell into oblivion. Jordan gasped and bolted upright. She inhaled oxygen and then coughed out any remaining gunk in her throat. She was still soaked to the bone, but she was alive and on the shore a noticeable distance from her home. When she heard the sound of the surf, she looked around to see she was alone. Startled and scared, she looked at herself to see her clothes were ruined. Her body ached all over, and the itch in the back of her throat turned into a full-blown cough. She got to her hands and knees and continued to fight for breath. Eventually, she vomited a considerable amount onto the shore and collapsed to the side. With what little strength that remained, she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small yellow capsule. It was still intact, and she swallowed it between hacks with no regard to the dirt on it or the bile in her mouth. Soon after, the cough faded, and her breathing returned to normal. She pushed herself upright again when she felt strong enough. She stood up on unstable legs against a nearby rusted chassis of a hover car to stay upright. The rain still fell on top of her, but she felt no worse than before. Behind her, the path that led to the cliff and back home was still there. She stumbled onward with the occasional glance at the beach. Save for the many piles of garbage, there was nothing but the aftermath of where she had been rescued. But by who? She wondered. All right. And today we have with us Mr. Christian Clark. I assume you go by he, him, those kind of gender details things.
That is correct.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining me. Why don't you go ahead and talk about a little bit about yourself and your writing and your platform?
Okay, so my name's as previously stated, my name's Christian Clark. I've been writing as a hobby for a long time. I mean, I was mostly writing fan fiction back when the only internet that we had was through America Online, which kind of dates me and makes me go, oh, damn, I'm old. And and it was only recently, like in the past year or so, that I've actually decided to, why not? Let's go into original fiction writing because most stories out there end up disappointing me to the point where I felt like I could have done better, or at the very least, something that was more satisfying to me as a writer. So, and yeah, so like I hope to be able to do that as a career. Which I know is not going to be easy. It's not going to be, and there's no guarantee that there's going to be any success in it. But I would rather do this than continuing to do what I was doing before, just, not taking my writing for granted, because it's through actually learning how to write original fiction that I think I've improved as a writer.
All right. Well, and when you get to the querying phase, please don't ever say that you think you can do better. Just warning to all authors out there: don't do that. Don't do that in a query letter.
Got it. Okay. Let's just In that case, let's rewind a bit and just say I was disappointed, and wanted to do something about it.
Okay. Well,
that's not better. Okay.
No, that's for here. That's fine. That's fine. For a query letter, though, you don't want to attack authors, because when you attack authors, you're attacking their agents. So
right. So okay.
Keep that in mind.
Will do. Okay. Well,
Um,
better learning that this here than not than later on and finding out that I pretty much shot myself in the foot, but by ignoring that advice.
yeah, because agents talk. So when one person receives everything, everybody hears about it.
Hmm. Yep.
So just if you get a query letter going, I will revise it, or well, I will revise and critique it on here for you just to make sure it's exactly what you want.
Okay. I'll be sure and ask you about that because I want
All
to make
right.
like
Uh,
so. There.
yes,
Fingers
very
crossed.
good. So your I'm going to start with something that I liked, and um I liked the way that your world is built to be disgusting. It's
Yes.
built to be an absolute pigsty.
Hmm.
And I think that's very original. I think that's creative. And I would really like to know how that affects the plot.
Okay. So from you read the prologue and the first chapter, or just the first chapter?
You just gave me the first chapter.
First chapter, right? Okay. So basically, what I'm trying to say is that it's like how it affects the plot is like basically that is. I mean, maybe I'm just being a bit too blatant here, but it's basically how I view, unfettered capitalism when it comes to how they treat, the populaces of like, of other countries when profit is the bottom line at all costs, and the well-being of the people that already live there is a non-issue. And
Okay.
so as a result, everything gets, I mean, everything gets filthy and everything is dirty, and as a result, like because of all the like industrial revolution era technologies and manufacturing, it ends up taking such a huge toll, not just out of the environment itself but out of the people, because I mean, we without sounding too like a hippie, I mean, we are connected to the land in ways that we're not entirely cognizant. I mean, in subtle ways. I mean, because like the food that we eat comes from the nature that we live around, and so when that gets polluted and dirty, like it takes an effect on us too. I mean, you have I mean, just look at like what happens to folks um in Flint, Michigan, as an example.
Okay. That's actually a really good example. They're still without water. They've been without
Yep.
clean water since what, 2014? Something like
No,
that?
no, earlier than that.
Earlier than that?
Yeah.
I don't live in the United States anymore, so I'm way
Yeah, you're lucky you got out.
trust me, it was a long time coming, but yeah. So the first piece of advice that I can really give is that you are writing an adult science fiction story.
Hmm.
An adult fantasy and adult science fiction are heavily detail based.
Hmm.
This is still a bare bones chapter.
Really?
It's still bare bones. There's nothing really happening, and we don't get much of a sense of the surroundings. And
Uh-huh.
what I mean by that is there's very it's kind of melded together. I can't see how you see, where there's the apartment balcony and then there's the marsh and then there's the ocean. I don't see it the way that you see it. And in my
Uh-huh.
mind, that makes it very confusing because I can't separate those different bodies of water.
Hmm.
And so, because of that, because I can't separate those bodies of water, I can't see how she's seeing the other people of her block as well, because I don't know where one ends and the other begins.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Additionally, we have her in her apartment, but we don't know what her apartment looks like. We don't know anything about her surroundings except what she's directly seeing.
Hmm.
That's when you're creating your own world, we need to be grounded in it, because that's what you're doing. You're creating an alternate Earth, essentially, a more polluted Earth. And I think that's a fantastic idea, but we need to kind of step into her shoes and live a little bit of her life as her before she's swept away.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
Um,
So I have a question then.
mhm.
So when you're saying like I need to add more detail, like so where is there is usually where is the line before it starts going from between like setting up the world and just tossing an info dump on the reader right then and there?
It's about environmental interaction. You want
Oh,
her to interact with everything. It doesn't matter if she's smelling the air or if she's touching like her clothing or a blanket or something like that. It's all about the
environment.
separation of those little details of the info dump, and then the environmental interaction. What does
Okay,
she,
okay.
besides just, we see what she sees. Obviously seeing is the
Right,
most, that's the one we get the most. But this is a polluted world. You're telling us that she smells something, but we don't know what it smells like.
right.
Is the air green
Oh,
because it's so polluted? How does she see so far away? This is a marshland. That marshland should be polluted to all to hell.
hmm.
There should be gases rising up. Everything is rotted. There should be insects everywhere,
Hmm.
even in her own apartment.
Ooh, oh, that's right. Yes, yeah, yes, that is true. That is true. So like, okay, I see that now because like it's also, I mean, also I've been trying to improve on like I mean what you said is also in conjunction with my efforts to improve on my sensory description. Like
Mhm.
you mentioned we use sight mostly, and but like because and I use smell a little bit, but like I'm also trying to use taste and touch and hearing, and so like and so I mean that's there's a lot more that I there's a lot more to do evidently.
Mhm. Well, that's, this is only draft two. Um,
Right, right.
and I say this is only because when I was writing Copper Breadcrumbs, I've been writing Copper Breadcrumbs for 19 years. I've been working on that series for a very long time. I had a chapter that I was so happy with. It was exactly what I wanted, exactly what I saw in my head, and then it turned out to be the very reason that my book wasn't working. So I had to scrap the whole thing and start from a different point. And I'm not saying that's what you have to do here, but I
Hmm.
do think we should go back a little bit, as so
A
that
little
we can,
further.
well, yeah, so we can kind of see a little more of the world. You
Right.
give us a little bit with the lighting and with the little tiny balcony, but there's a lot more that we as the reader need in order to be grounded, because when we read sci-fi, we expect to be inundated with details, especially
Uh-huh.
adult sci-fi.
Okay.
Um, we also need to know more about who your character is as a person. Um, we don't, she's just kind of a Jane Doe right now. Your
Right.
narrative does not give personality, and that's what voice is. That is what voice is, personality. And that's one of the reasons that it's so hard to nail, because
Hmm.
we don't think of voice in terms of that. Um, but that is what it is. So what I would suggest doing is thinking about what how does Jordan view the world around her? Is she angry at it? Is there a person in particular that she blames? Is this something that she's always
Oh,
known, or and if this is just a way of life for her? Those are details that you can incorporate in the narrative that will help spark a little bit of voice. Because the way it reads now, I'll read a little section here.
Uh-huh.
It says, let's see, the small beach between the ocean and the marsh was covered with garbage of all kinds, discarded vehicles, decomposed foodstuffs, half-used supplies, and the occasional body of an enforcer. First of all, you use the verb covered, was covered with. Well, that's passive voice. So
Hmm.
that, I mean, that's one of those things that agents and editors are going to be like, no, scrap that. But you just that one sentence right there, you can rephrase that to show how your MC views that that beach. You know,
Oh, yeah. Okay. So it's because because like later on in the story, like in my second draft, added the detail that she's always wanted to swim, like to go swimming, like in the ocean, but unfortunately, because it's so polluted, that's a bad idea.
mhm.
And so and she even takes up a hobby of painting like these oceanscapes that she longs for, but at the same time though it's her only escape. And so that it never occurred to me that that when describing, well, I mean, it did occur to me, but like I'm still figuring out how to properly describe like what the characters are seeing in their voice, so like instead of the sentence that you just read back to me, I could say like the beach was inundated with the usual disgusting variety of garbage, and then put out that list again, and how it gets her, or and maybe like brings back a memory of once in a fit of pique she decided to go down there and regretted it because it just smelled so horrendous.
Now, in that example sentence you gave us, there were two distinct words, inundated and disgusting. And those are very strong, powerful words that are going to give more voice and more point of view to the
Oh,
reading. Because
okay.
you have was covered with. Not only is that passive voice, that's weak. That's weak writing. And you know, I say that and I sound like an ass, but it is. It's weak writing. That's
Mhm.
unfortunately that's one of the things that editors and agents see, and they're like, oh well, I'm being told a laundry list of things that are happening, and I'm not being told a story. Because that's what makes it a story is the voice and the narrative thread, or the way that the MC changes throughout the story. That is what a story is. You know, it's the evolution.
Hmm.
And you said that she paints. I didn't see that at all in this chapter.
Right, and that's something I could add here. So
She could be in the middle of painting, surrounded by all her other works. That is a very clear point of view, especially if she's painting something that she longs to see in that beach, you know? Now, how old is she?
she's about in her mid to late 30s.
Okay. So has she ever known a time when it wasn't like this?
No, it was like the planet has been taken over by this mega corporation for about a century.
Okay. Um, because I was going to suggest when she wakes up on the beach after having been pulled into the flood, I was going to say have her kind of dream of her childhood, maybe of a
Mhm.
moment of happiness in conjunction with
Hmm.
nature, because even if it's 30, 40 years later, it would still not be the same. If this has been going on for about a century, then there's still within her childhood some form of nature that hasn't been corrupted.
That's true. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You're right. You're right. Yep. That's that works. That can work.
Um, and then you have the ending where it's like uh, where she was rescued, but by who? Um, there's no indication that she was rescued. There's nothing to indicate that she didn't just wash up on shore just out of the blue. The idea of her being rescued seems it doesn't jive with everything else.
Uh-huh.
So
Hmm.
what you might want to do is put some other context clues that we can see right there, like maybe another set of footprints, or if she's near some forestry or some sort of dead leaves where the twigs could be broken where somebody ran past or something like that, some sort of indication that she was not alone.
Well, I mean, well, okay. Well, I mean, was there? Oh, okay, okay, yeah. I mean, like she goes back there in the next chapter, or to find that she was rescued, but because there are like large indentations in the sand of what may have been a pair of very large hands. So,
Okay.
but should we move that up to the first chapter then?
Or you can say just how um, she feels lucky to be alive,
Hmm.
and that kind of ends that there. Um, or I mean, you need like a micro cliffhanger. So if you want to move that up to the first chapter, that could be a good micro cliffhanger so that we keep turning the page. Um, but as it is now, I'm just like, how does she know she was rescued? What's going on? I don't see,
Uh,
what she sees, and that's a problem.
okay.
Um, then there's you've got some parts of the world like the rain catchers.
Yeah,
um
like I mean, I wanted to like show that the folks in the people in her, like I mean I mean just think of it like an apartment complex where like you have several buildings where apartment buildings, and I wanted to try and illustrate that people would have to learn how to, I mean, when with a crumbling infrastructure, would have to learn how to survive with the environment as it is. But I'm not so sure if that fits anymore, to be honest.
it's so vague that we're just like, okay, well, what does he mean by a rain catcher? Like, are you talking like the layered scientific thing to clean water? Is it just a leaf or like a barrel like they used to use in the old times? There's this is one of the ways that you can build that world. Does
Hmm.
she have one? Does Jordan have one that she would need to use? Her infrastructure literally crumbles under her feet.
Hmm.
So that's one of the things that she can interact with to build the world and still
Oh.
give her character development.
Uh-huh.
You could say she rations her water because
Ooh, that's right.
it only rains every so often, so she has to ration it. Things like that. That's definitely a way to show how her survivalist instinct kicks in, as well as the suffering of the world around her.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good idea. Ooh, that's I like that. I like that a lot.
That's what I'm here for.
And it's
Um,
appreciated.
the I think the final thing that I really wanted to touch on, I wanted to say, okay, maybe not the final thing, but what's the sky like in your world?
Well, currently it is. I mean, like it's the rain season where it's like it's not acid rain, but it's like it's dirty rain because of all the pollution in the air. But like when it's not, it's more there's more of a constant uh, brown orange haze
Okay.
everywhere. So,
So birds would be falling out of the sky.
well, birds are already dead at this point.
So, but you say that there's the body of an enforcer.
Yeah,
So shouldn't the ocean also be littered with dead bodies of animals?
that's a good point.
If the ocean is polluted, there's going to be dead animals everywhere. They're going to be
Hmm.
choking on stuff. They're going to be like unable to filter out the chemicals.
Yeah.
I mean, the Earth is dead essentially.
Hmm. That's very true.
So what is an enforcer then? Is it
It's
the
it's a
military police?
it's yeah it's a corporate police.
Go with that. Build on that.
Oh, okay. So
There's a
because
dead body there,
and no
and
one's
she's
doing
just
anything
ignoring
about
it.
it. No one, everyone ignores it.
Then tell us that.
Okay.
Have
Okay.
her say, "Oh, look,
Oh,
another
look,
dead body,
another
another
dead body,
enforcer."
another enforcer, and like that's the fifth one this month, and like, oh brother, it's like it's. I mean, like she would have been at one point she would have been scared of him. Now she's just numb.
Character development.
Yeah. Ooh, that's good. That's good. Good. Ooh,
Um, so
I like this. I like this going.
most animals are dead,
Hmm.
which means there's no meat.
Or very little. It's
You wouldn't want to eat that meat.
no, no, you wouldn't.
So what kind of vegetables does she use if the ground's polluted?
Yeah, she normally eats like uh, it's mostly like usually whenever we see her eat, it's usually she's drinking like she's usually drinking when she's not when we actually see her eat something. So I think I need to work on that part because the way I would see it in this kind of world, like the only source of food would be like mass produced canned or like canned protein bars, canned goods and so on that try to pass as food but is just there as
Industrial. It's
yeah
industrial.
an industrial food.
So another facet of
Ooh,
world building.
yes.
And see, these are some of the things that authors when they're starting don't think about, because there's we as authors, we get excited about our ideas. We get
Mhm.
very excited, like, oh, I'm going to write that and I want to do that. And then once the process gets started, it's like, oh, I didn't think about that. Oh, I should
Mhm.
really do this. Oh, crap, how am I going to incorporate that and still tell the story that I need to tell? Uh, so you've got a great idea. Unfortunately, it's going to require a lot of dark thoughts because
Mhm.
your world is dark.
Yes.
Um,
And that's before I start screaming Soylent Green is made from people.
yes, I mean, and in that day and age, you wouldn't want to eat people either.
Nope.
Um, the okay, so this is the last thing that I want to touch on.
Okay.
It's the writing style that you use. You use a lot of filtering. And do you know what filtering is?
I do not.
Okay, so filtering is when you say something like he saw, she felt.
So that's what that's called.
That's called filtering.
Okay, because that has been something that I've recently have been looking out for and editing out of what of my first draft so I can get rid of that.
Mhm.
It's and so so yeah, that's something I've been working on
Okay.
and getting better about. Thank you. At least I know now what it's called because it's been bugging me for weeks.
Yeah, it's called filtering, and it's called filtering because we're filtered from the perspective of the main character. It's like we're taken out
Right.
of their shoes. Um, with with that, I underlined a couple where like just like right in the second paragraph, you say Jordan saw the few other residents instead of just
Right.
the few other residents scrambled
Yeah.
about.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. So, but yeah, I know what that is now, and like, oh my gosh, thank you so much, because so now I know what it's called, so I can not do it. I mean, like I mean, I have been fixing like that problem in my other stuff, but now that I know this,
Mhm.
and what it exactly looks like, I know what I need to do in order to fix it so that the wording becomes stronger, and we can, so that the voice itself is more direct in what's
Correct.
happening.
Correct. Let's see. I'm trying to find. It's like it's after 9:30 here, so I'm trying to just see if there's anything else that. Um,
Yes, thank you for being so accommodating.
oh no, no, no. That's what I'm here for. It's look. I love helping other authors. I love doing this, being able to critique
Sure.
and give advice and just tell from my perspective. Um,
Hmm.
and I think yeah, with that, you've got the garbage on the beach, develop that, and then
Hmm.
just one last thing was she looked at herself to see her clothes were ruined after she uh, wakes up on the beach.
Oh, so yeah.
How were her clothes ruined? We don't know what
Oh,
she looks like
and we don't know what she was wearing either.
exactly.
So okay, so that makes sense. Okay, so like, I mean, it's just minor details like that I mean, because like there's a because like, I mean, one of my favorite books is Strum and White's Elements of Style. I mean,
Hmm.
some swear by it, others curse its name, but like one thing that one of the most probably one of the most salient points I learned from it was learning to trust your readers, because you will not be able, because you mentioned earlier that you had an idea of what I was trying to say, but at the same time though, like what I try to write and say with my writing will not be what you will see and imagine when you read it in the first place.
Yeah,
So at the same time though, if I want my readers to trust me, I need to give them the information that they need in order to form a coherent picture of what I'm trying to say. Correct?
exactly. And
Okay.
that's what makes first chapters so hard, especially the first paragraph, because you have to pull your readers in.
Hmm.
And it's the first, if you don't do it within the first three sentences, you're not going to do it. That's
That's true.
that's something that I've learned. I've talked to so many authors. I've talked to published authors. I've been to conferences, and it's the first three sentences. And actually, your first sentence has to be strong. Your next two sentences have to be as strong, if not stronger, because your first sentence is the promise. The second and third sentences are the delivery that you can maintain that promise.
Hmm.
So with the way that it's written now, it still felt bare bones. It
Hmm.
still felt like there was meat that we're not being served because the way that the world is built is not structured in a way that we can see the way that you see.
Uh-huh.
So what I would do is I would take it bit by bit. Do you outline?
No, actually, I pants. I do pantsing, which is, just I just write. I mean, I have a I have a beginning and an ending, and I try to get from A to B, like no matter no matter which way it goes. And I have been trying to, and then once I'm done with the first draft, that's when I start to give it a more general structure, so I can or get it more organized for the next draft.
Okay. Then what I would suggest doing is two things. One, outline the first chapter. Don't worry about the other chapters. Don't worry about
Mhm.
outlining the book. Just outline everything that you want in the first chapter.
Okay.
Then do a world tree where you kind of go through everything that you want your world to look like. And then do a character tree where you go through your characters' traits, you go through their passions, what they hate, their hobbies like her painting, and then you want history because you have to think she is 30, almost 40 years old. There's a whole past right there that's going to affect
Mhm.
how she sees the world.
Right.
And we don't need an info dump, but you know, if you say that she paints because she longs for this world, you know, that's not an info dump. That's character development, and that's the shining soul that we want to see.
Okay.
But other than that, I mean, I think you've got a great foundation.
Well, good. I'm
And
glad to hear that.
and so with just, you know, if you just build upon that, I mean, honestly, I hate to say it, but this whole chapter, I would just go ahead and rewrite it just completely.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
that's fine.
Unfortunately, writing is rewriting is rewriting is rewriting.
Oh, it's yeah, it's I mean, there were sections in other stories that I loved so much, but I mean, in another story that I was writing, actually later on in this story, where I had to take it out, but I didn't want to because I felt it was just so nice, but at the same time though, like it didn't fit, and so and so yeah, but I was able to rewrite it in a version that in retrospect was better. So I mean,
Well, and every version will probably be better. There's just got to be, you got to, I mean, I've rewritten the first book of my series 4 times cover to cover.
wow.
4 times. And since I found, I felt that first chapter was the problem, and I axed it and everything related to it, that was able to get me on the level that I felt that the writing needed to be. So, you know, unfortunately, writing just takes time. And it's something that you just started seriously writing within the last year, you said, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you say seriously writing, you know, you don't count out what you've done with your fan fiction. Your fan fiction is your stepping stone.
Yeah.
That's why fan fiction is so important. I personally don't read fan fiction. I have written fan fiction. We won't get into the naughtiness that I wrote with Harry Potter, but it's a thing I did, and I actually really enjoyed it as a story. So,
oh yeah.
And then when I was in college, I wrote 5 books that were like 5 full novels that were a gay parody of Sailor Moon. So, and I love that story. I might rewrite that story just because it was so fun.
Well, yeah, I mean, like it gives you joy to be able to like, you know, spread your wings as a creator when you're trying to come up with like, you know, what ifs and maybes.
Well, that's all I have for you in terms of critique. If further down the line you find that you've rewritten and you want another critique, I would be glad to go through this again.
Oh, yes.
Do you have any questions for me regarding the chapter?
No, not really, because like I was when I finished the second draft, I knew that it was not going to be the last one, but before I publish it. So, but because I knew that there were details that I was going to miss, but I wasn't sure what. And so, but it wasn't just the detail that I was missing. It was like you mentioned, the environmental description, or like an interaction that helped to tell the story. And I mean, if anything, like I know what I need to do in order to going forward from here on.
All right. Well, in that case, I wish you luck.
Well, thank you.
And
thank you very much for your critique and for your time. Like, this is very helpful.
Thank you for appearing. I know getting critique to your face is kind of, it was like, whoa, I don't know if I'm ready for that. But you know, I mean, if I try and present it in the nicest way possible. So
I know, and I appreciate that.
Well, and I appreciate you coming onto the program. And again, if maybe in maybe a few months you want to do this again, I'd be grateful for it.
I'd be happy to.
Absolutely. All right. Well, you have a wonderful rest of your day. Uh,
You as well.
and I will see you. I'll talk to you on Discord.
That's going to happen. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And once again, this has been The First is the Worst. I'd like to thank you for joining me tonight, and a special thank you to Christian Clark for allowing me to critique his first chapter. I hope he's able to use my critiques and for you, the same for you at home. Remember to think about your world. What do you want it to look like, smell like? What flowers do they have? Animals, clothing styles, and cultural rituals, be it daily or traditional. This will all help you build the world that you want to share with your audience. Now, this is just a reminder that if you or anyone you know is interested in a free critique of your full, polished, and unpublished first chapter, maximum of 5,000 words, then submit to FirstistheWorstPodcast at gmail.com. I accept all genre fiction, except erotica and fan fiction, MG through adults. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Hit that little bell and be notified about all future episodes. It will help me out greatly. You can also follow me on Twitter at JECEARLOCK. And also The First is the Worst at FRSTISTHEWRST, both in the description below. For now, my husband and I bid you a fond farewell. And until next time, may all your writingest dreams come true.